Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently. I'm Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology, and today I am here with Dave Tomic, the president of Eden Tool and Eden Manufacturing. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Christina.
All right, so you are MoldMaking Technology's guest mold builder in our booth at IMTS because Eden Tool's goal is building molds that exceed their defined lifecycle expectations while delivering consistent, high-quality parts. And you are here and willing to share a little bit about how you guys do it. So first, a little background. Eden Tool is an 18-person medical mold builder known for its high-end hard milling, EDM, and grinding capabilities with predictable manufacturing as its central focus. And over the last 15 years, Eden has reimagined how molds and mold components are designed and manufactured. Your team consistently builds predictable, manufactured solutions from mold to product, cavity to cavity, and part to part. So it's precision that's the foundation of everything Eden does, especially its mold making. So to Eden, mold making is about predictable performance. So why don't you define predictable manufacturing for us and why it's important for mold making?
Well, predictable manufacturing is really to understand all the variables that impact the manufacturing process operation. Obviously technology plays a huge role in this. We're in an industry with tons of variables. So machines, a good machine can handle some of those variables. So this is layering good machines, rigidity, process control, taking all the variables and tightening the control and understanding around them, putting them all together for a net goal. I think is a
Okay, I like that.
Way to say that.
Goal. Got it. All right, so let's dig into this a little deeper by you sharing the story behind Eden's use of predictable manufacturing to design and produce a particular mold and insert. So let's give the viewer a better sense of what they're going to be looking at. To give me some details about its size, the material, and its end use.
Sure. So this particular tool that we're going to be focused on and is at IMTS here is a needle over mold. It's a little bit unique in its characteristics. It's got a lot of thin walls from a plastic part. It's got a center tube that we're molding over. It's a polycarbonate plastic material, but a lot of thin-walled features in the plastic part. So from a tooling component, since it's medical, most of our medical tools are all hardened stainless steel. So 420 is a big portion of our material base. So the tool is not that big. The needles are very small. They're less than an inch in length, and it's a 27 gauge needle. So it's a pretty small part.
So I would say that is the most challenging aspect of it, and all the challenges that come with that, right? And that complexity.
Yes. Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a lot of small features. So while the part is small, there are features on the part that are even smaller and corners that need to be super sharp.
I know you talked about before, there were certain modifications that had to be done to this tool. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the challenge we often get on small parts is where to gate. Sometimes gating and managing gates is some of the hardest things on small parts. So in this case, we actually had to create a little bit of a thicker section to get a clean gate in where we can get material to flow around the part due to the thin walled nature. So we actually had to do a slight modification of the part.
All right. So with predictable manufacturing at your core, you have to talk about any of the technologies and processes and even team skills that were used to design and machine this mold, as well as any of the necessary modifications.
Sure. So, the unique part of it, this is a rotary tool. So it's got 1 A half and 3 B halves. Everything is 100% interchangeable. There's no individual fitting. Everything is all sealing surfaces, all wafer inserts that are needed are 100% interchangeable. So most of them are all held to within tolerances of 2 to 3 tenths of a thousandth of an inch. And that's a big portion of this. So venting is consistent. So the filling of the parts is very consistent. The clamping of the parts is very consistent. Any spares is very consistent. And that's really a big part of that. So, for us, we use hard milling is a big portion to this. Wire EDM, making some of the wafer inserts, sync EDM, some of the corners were very sharp, so we had to burn and erode some very sharp corners and interchangeability, and then obviously some grinding as well. So when you put the whole package together, it's a pretty tight tool.
Is there anything specific when you list the different machine tool types that you're using, right, to build these tools? Is there anything specific you look for in the technology that it has to have?
Sure, absolutely. We call we work with tier 1 technology groups, right? So, you know, and sometimes there's a few up in that category. You know, there's a couple good ones, but for us, is, you know, we need a good technology. That's a big deal, but we also need good relationships with our partners. So it's one thing to have the best piece of equipment, but if they can't support it and you can't have access to it and you can't communicate with the vendor, well, that's a problem. Yeah. So we look for the total package. That's pretty important to us, and we have long-standing relationships in the industry for decades and decades. And that's kind of the whole package is important for us.
All right, so that's a great segue to the fact that we are at IMTS. And before I let you go, is there a particular technology or supplier that you have your eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, it's kind of it's maybe a backwards answer to the question. So my number one reason to go to IMTS is actually relational. It's to meet people that I haven't seen for a little bit, redevelop those relationships. And once we understand those relationships, of course, it always leads to technology. And so, yes, technology is a huge portion of what IMTS is all about. But at the end of the day, relationships still are king. And so it's a great place to cultivate and meet people who can help you understand the technology you need to be successful.
Got it. That's a great way to end this, Dave. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story and what's behind predictable manufacturing at Eden Tool.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you.
And to everyone watching, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com.